Okay, let's see if I can do this. All right. Today our theme is about growing up and learning to speak up and learning to listen up. These are lessons in negotiation from Moshe and the tribes of Re'uben and Gad. Um, Now I'm going to survey this and we're going to learn quite a bit, but I encourage you to read this chapter, chapter 32 of Numbers, and go a little more deeply into it, because even as was read this morning, I saw even more details of wise and proper negotiation that are really remarkable. And we're going to touch these bases during this drash. So let us continue. The Reubenites and the Gadites wanted a concession. We remember what the concession is. The concession was they wanted to remain on the east side of the Jordan, where there was rich pasture lands, and they had many flocks and sheep and goats and who knows what else. They wanted to stay on that side rather than do what everybody was assuming they were all going to do, was cross over the Jordan to the west side of the Jordan in obedience to God's command and his promise of the land of promise that goes all the way back to Abraham. So they had a different perspective. They thought, no, it would be really great if we could stay here. So sometimes our perspective is different from others with whom we are engaged. I'm sure this is true for all of you. I'm amazed at how practical this teaching is in this chapter, because it's something we all face, that we're part of a group. It may be part of a family, you may be part of a congregation, you're part of a political group, you're part of a club, you're part of some association, some affiliation, and your perspective is slightly different from what other people assume. This is normal and healthy. Now, we should respect our right to differ, and others should respect this too. What do I mean by we respecting our right? Some of us are too reflexive and capitulating to other people. We are inclined to believe that when we don't see things the way other people see things, they're probably right and we're probably wrong. Not necessarily so. We should respect our right to differ, and others should respect our right to differ also. I've been in situations like this in my life so many times that I can't really recall them all to mind. But having a relationship where you are not allowed to differ is no relationship at all. If you're part of a congregation, a mission organization, a club, any group you might think, where you're just not permitted to have a different opinion, that's not a relationship. That's something else. I don't know what I would call it, but it's not a relationship. It's an abusive relationship. You need to have the right to differ. Now, sometimes you'll be wrong, but you need to have a right to differ so that people can discuss with you how maybe it's a good idea for you to change your point of view. But to be reflexively forbidden to have a different opinion is unjust and unhealthy. So we continue. Sometimes others presume to overrule, overpower, and veto our opinions. I have a friend, he's a good friend. He's another Messianic leader. And in my experience with him, which goes back decades, almost without exception, every time I express an opinion or an idea, before the words are totally out of my mouth, he's all over it by finding fault with it or finding a better idea. He's been doing this with me for at least 30 years. It's very oppressive and it drives me crazy until I've become really aware of it, and now I just give him a break. But people don't have the right to presume to overrule your right to your opinion or to overpower you, to kind of, is somebody washing their laundry there? Thank you. Is somebody overpower? They might. People also overpower you. They come right at you, and they kind of squelch you. Uh, and sometimes people feel the right to veto your opinions, and so you're in a situation where you're even afraid to share your opinion. Now, I'm going to ask, has this ever been true for any of you? You ever been in a situation where somebody presumes to veto your opinions or squelch your right to express your opinions? Uh, I imagine it's true. While differing with our opinions is natural and allowable, they have every right to differ with our opinions. We should guard ourselves against being discounted and disrespected. You know, in 15 months, I will be an age that doesn't make any sense to me. I'll be 80 years old in about 15 months. That's old. And it's about time that people stop treating me like a child. And so I don't allow people to treat me like a child. I don't allow them to discount my opinions just because they're not their opinions. I don't allow myself to be disrespected. I'm not a child, neither are you. So you have a right to your opinions. They have a right to differ. You should discuss things if it's a matter of group welfare, but you're entitled. So, going on. We need to learn not simply to acquiesce. I will tell you that um, I've been doing a lot of reflecting on my life lately, on my childhood, on my family of origin, on how I learned to react. And my standard operating procedure in conflict is to withdraw. I won't tell you why, but the way in which I respond to conflict is I withdraw. In a sense, I acquiesce. It's not good. I mean, it's what I almost always do unless I really catch myself. It's my reflex to withdraw. But we need to learn not simply to acquiesce to the opinions of others. Uh, it's not good for us. It's not good for the people we address. It's not good to teach them the lesson that they can dominate other people or discount other people just because they feel they have the power or they're smarter. It's not good for them. We need to teach them how to treat people right by making sure they treat us right. It's not good for the truth. Maybe you have an opinion which is true and which God wants you to stand for. Um, I'll tell you a story. I started teaching school in New York when I was, I guess, maybe 23, 24 years old. I was very young. Uh, maybe I was a little, maybe, yeah, about 24. I think the first year that I taught was the year of the Ocean Hill-Brownsville dispute. The Ocean Hill-Brownsville dispute was a dispute by a community board, a community group of parents, a local group of parents in Brownsville, largely people of color, who want to control over certain aspects of the educational process of their children, and the Board of Education was fighting against them. It was a power struggle. Now, I was a brand new teacher. I, uh, I'd never been hired at that time. I'd never been hired by such a big organization as the Board of Education in the city of New York. And I investigated the newspapers, and I couldn't make up my mind who was right in this dispute because there was propaganda flowing from the right side and the left side. From both sides were just gushing, strident statements, and it was all very confusing. One thing I knew, I had been hired to teach, so I went in. Well, my school was 99.9% union, the school that I was teaching at, and you weren't allowed to have your own opinion. You do what the group does. Now, I was not, I had no malice. I wasn't making a point. I was just saying I cannot justly discern the issues involved. So I simply went in, and I didn't even take a paycheck. I went in on principle, but not for filthy lucre. But I became persona non grata because I wasn't allowed to have my private opinion. And that spirit is in our world today. If you have an opinion about a certain political figure that your crowd doesn't hold, they'll be sure to remind you how wrong you are. You're not permitted to take exception. That's not good. It's not good for you. It's not good for the people that you're interacting with. It's not good to teach them a lesson that people who take exception are just not allowed. If you want to discuss it, sure, rein me in, discuss it with me, but don't slam dunk me. And there was one guy, a teacher whose name I still remember, who tried to run me over in the street. It's not good for the truth. You may have something you want to stand for that is more righteous than what the group stands for. It's not good for the group. It's not good to teach them that lesson. More So bravo for the Reubenites and Gadites. What chutzpah, what courage it took for them to ask to take exception to what the whole nation was doing. They were all just gearing up to cross the Jordan, and they said, "Excuse me, we have an idea." That took tremendous courage. It took confidence, and it was actually the will of God. It was a part of the will of God that the rest of the nation did not see. Man, that's incredible. These are incredible people. So let's continue. What did the Reubenites and the Gadites do right? First of all, they came through proper channels. They didn't stage a rebellion. They didn't make an end run. They came to Moses and Aaron and the leaders of the people. They came respectfully. And they were seeking a righteous benefit. They were not. They felt it was better for this tribe, these two tribes. It was better for them, and it was better for the people of God. They were not seeking something selfish. They were not seeking something wicked. They were seeking something righteous. And when they came, they had done their homework. They were able to reason and to argue a well-structured, well-evidenced argument. They didn't come carelessly. They did their homework. Why am I telling you this stuff? It's not for you to admire the Reubenites and the Gadites, although they're worthy of tremendous admiration. It's for us to learn the lesson. When we differ, sometimes we want to express our difference, come through proper channels. In the life of our congregation, in years past, people who take to something don't come to through the proper channels. They talk to one another, and they talk off to the side. When I first came to Ahavat Zion, there were two people. There was one guy whose theology was much like the Jehovah's Witnesses, but he didn't want the leadership of the synagogue to know about it. So he had he was operating the sound in the synagogue at that time. He had a private Bible study in his house, and he took exception to our theological assumptions. But did he come through proper channels and reason about it? No. He started a splinter group. Not good. And there was another person about whom I won't say anything. None of you know this person, except maybe Linda knows this person, probably remembers this person. Another person who also had a group meeting in her house, and she said to somebody, "Don't tell Stuart about it, he'll only ruin it." That was very, very undermining. That's the wrong way to do things. If you're in a congregation where you just can't agree with certain things that are done, then put on your big boy pants or your big girl pants, and come to the leaders and say, we have a problem. They came through proper channels. They came respectfully. They sought a righteous benefit, and they did their homework. That's good stuff to learn. What did Moshe do right? First, he was passionate about the honor of God and the people of God. The reason he was so angry when they suggested this is not because they didn't have his idea, but because we've been here before. There were your ancestors 40 years ago, they decided they didn't want to go into the promised land when God wanted them to do it, and it cost us 40 years wandering in the wilderness. You're dishonoring God, you're bringing doom upon the people, and Moses was righteously angry. He was passionate about the right things, about the honor of God and the welfare of the people of God. But he listened attentively. He listened to what they said. We even find in the record, he does something which I'm sure David Siegel will tell you from his experience as a lawyer, which is a very, very good procedure in a contentious matter. He listened attentively, then he repeated back to them his understanding of what they had said, so that he was sure that he understood them rightly, and they were sure that he understood them rightly. And then he articulated and publicly formalized an agreement. And they joined in a public agreement that was written down and articulated in public. It became a matter of public record, and it was formalized. They basically drew up a contract of their understanding. This is beautiful stuff. This is grown-up stuff. So I want to talk about one more thing, and that is about how Moses was listening and how we ought to listen. And when you're in a dispute, when you're in a situation where either you are presenting a minority viewpoint or somebody else is presenting a minority viewpoint, this is something which should be practiced. It's no secret. It's very common in this day, but it's a very, very crucial idea. First of all, you have to practice what's called reflective listening. It's a communication technique used to fully understand and engage with another person's thoughts, feelings, and experiences. You need to learn to listen reflectively. I'm going to explain what that is. Most of us, well, I won't say that. Some of us, including myself, are too often, while we're in a dispute or a difference with somebody, while they're talking, we are shaping in our mind what we're going to say next. We're not really listening. We're not really giving them signals that we're listening. We're just keeping our mouths shut while we think about something else. That is not good. Let's go on and learn a little more. Reflective listening involves giving the speaker your full attention, demonstrating empathy, reflecting back their words and emotions. That's what Moses did, reflecting back their words and emotions to show that you understand and you care about what they're saying. This is very important. We're talking about maintaining relationships and even expanding relationships, being able to accommodate differences of opinion. This is very serious stuff. Now, here's 5 aspects of reflective listening. We've just defined it. Here's 5 aspects. Okay, Michael, would you read number 1? Rusty, would you read number 2? David, would you read number 3? Erica, would you read number 4? And Patricia, would you read number 5? So let's begin. Number 1.
Active attention. Give the speaker your undivided attention. Maintain eye contact and minimize distractions. Show genuine interest and focus on what they are saying.
That means don't be looking at your cell phone. That sounds stupid, I know, but we can violate that. It's a real discipline to keep your eyes on the person who's speaking to you. I've been involved in situations where I see people's eyes wander. It drives me crazy. It makes me feel like I'm boring them in some way. It makes me very self-conscious. It doesn't advance the relationship. So give your speaker the undivided attention, maintain eye contact, minimize distractions, put your phone away. Show genuine interest and focus on what they are saying. That's good. Number 2.
Some aspects of reflective listening. Nonverbal cues. Use appropriate body language and facial expressions to show attentiveness and openness. Nodding, maintaining an open posture, and using facial expressions that reflect empathy can encourage the speaker to share more.
Right. What do I mean by an open posture? Don't stand there like this. Open, show the palms of your hands. That's psychologically, that's a very open posture. But don't stand like this, because that's a closed posture. An open posture is a welcoming, relaxed posture. Nodding as they're speaking, having appropriate facial expressions as they make points. That's important. Number 3.
Some aspects of reflective listening. Paraphrasing, restate or summarize the speaker's words in your own words to ensure accurate understanding. Paraphrasing helps to clarify information and shows the speaker that you are actively listening.
So when they say something to you, maybe periodically you interrupt and say, hold on a minute, let me tell you what I hear you saying. You're saying A, B, C, D, or E. Is that correct? If they say yes, then they really feel listened to. And you may need to do this a number of times in the discussion in a friendly manner, just demonstrating your determination to understand them. You can differ with the people, but first understand before you differ. And you need to show that you're making every effort to truly understand and respect their view. Number 4, empathy.
Empathy. Demonstrate understanding and empathy by acknowledging the speaker's emotions. Reflect their feelings back to them using statements like, "It sounds like you're feeling," or "I can imagine that you must be."
Right. Oh, that's so brilliant. People feel so affirmed when you do that. They feel, and it draws all the poison out of the encounter. It de-escalates tension. It's just a very good idea. And I hope you take it seriously. It'll do you very well. And Patricia, number 5.
Reflective listening, avoidance of judgment and advice. Refrain from interrupting or imposing your opinions, judgments, or advice on the speaker. The focus is on understanding and supporting rather than problem solving or fixing the speaker's problems.
Right. You may go to that later, but first understand and then deal with problem solving. But don't interrupt people and say, and here's something that I do that is wrong. Too frequently, when people are speaking, they're discussing something. If they discuss something that's similar to an experience I had, I will interrupt them and say, I had an experience like that. Stuart, shut up. Stifle yourselves. When you're in a somewhat loaded conversation, something that has an element of negotiation in it, or an element of some people telling you dangerous information, things that they're upset about, etc., etc. The first thing that you need to do, the second, third, fourth, and fifth thing you need to do is make them feel truly heard. Okay? So, we've been talking about how to grow up. To grow up, that is to mature as people of God who engage in negotiations. We should speak up, we should express our differences when they're important to us. We should speak up, and we should learn to listen up. These have been lessons in negotiation from Moshe and the tribes of Re'uben. and Re'uben and Gad. Now, does anybody have something they want to say? I'll take two.